Hey, everybody. Welcome to BuffaloPlus.com and also here on our YouTube channel. Mike Catalana, Jenna Cottrell, Dan Fates, and Sean McDermott was the guy talking today. Oh, guys, he talked a lot.
About an hour.
An hour. Answering questions, very patient, really good. But Jenna, he had an overall theme today that I think a lot of fans would really appreciate, the tone that he sets and how it works with his team.
Yeah, I mean, I think he addressed the fact that he had talked to the team about his message towards them, about everything going on, the current climate in America. And the takeaway that I got from it, and I know a lot of other people did, was just the fact that he really chose his words carefully. And I think this means so much to him. It was, my takeaway was he wanted to listen to his players and outside voices. He wanted to learn from their experiences. And then he also wanted to lead. He mentioned the fact that he thinks the Bills and their locker room, just the fact that there's so many different ages, there's so many different backgrounds, there's so many different races, there's such a different group of people all coming together for the same goal, all working towards the same goal and working with one another. He thought the fact that Buffalo could be a leading example. And I think that is definitely huge. And it's a great point as well.
He went back to it and he referenced the picture of the Bills working out in Florida and said that was, quote, a great example of what our country should look like right now. We had different races, different backgrounds, all having their hands on one another's shoulders. I thought that was a strong statement because you hear about this all the time, but football locker room, they all get along. I'm not saying they're all best friends with one another in that locker room, but they all have a common goal. And you kind of heard that mentality when Sean was talking about the country's climate.
Yeah, I did get a kick out of him saying, I was a little concerned about the social distancing, which I think a lot of people felt that way, right? Yes. Because we've talked so much about it, but these guys were all together. Fortunately, they're all healthy, so that's a good thing. And then working out together. Again, he did not shy away from those conversations, which I think is important. Yeah. And I really believe he's built that culture for these moments. Yes, it's to win football games, but to keep his team together. And I really do believe the players on that team believe they have a voice. And it isn't just like, hey guys, today we're going to let you tell your stories. Yeah. I mean, this is what they do. So the stories now are even more impactful.
I could not agree more. And I think one of the things that Sean McDermott has harped on is the fact that at training camp, that's normally at Fisher, obviously this summer it won't be, but the fact that he gives the players an opportunity for them to stand up individually, explain their backstory, what football means to them, their experiences, and how that's really helped this Bills culture develop and have guys actually, play for one another and understand where one another are coming from. And I think, it's going to be a challenge this year because the fact that, they're not going to be at Fisher. How will the Bills try and implement that? But I think it's huge because, a football team is a slice of America, and just to see people understanding where one another are coming from, and to see Sean McDermott, what an impact that's had on him, and the Bills having that platform, and Sean McDermott having that platform, and his players having that platform. I just think it's a really important conversation to be had.
Yeah, and I do believe he's got a lot of Andy Reid in him that way, because I think Andy Reid was that way with his players, maybe before. The old school football coaches, Dan, weren't going to be doing that. I really don't think it's the case. And I laugh sometimes when you'll hear people talk about the old school stuff, the drills, and they're making them tough and all. I think these guys are as tough and as athletic as more than any players in the history of the game. So what's wrong with having them be more connected with each other as teammates in that sense? And I think that's an evolution of the game and an evolution of coaching.
And I think it was also interesting. Matthew Fairburn of The Athletic asked the question of, how did you pick your words? How did you know what to say? That first time that you're going to talk to the team after our country's, burning, and you're going to have to address players, and you're a white coach having to address that. And he said he talked to his social justice or social inequality team that he's got, and he also has a leadership council. And then he also talked to people on the staff. We've always heard this about Sean, is that he wants people to listen, and even Brian Dable, all of the coaches he's brought in, he wants their opinions. I thought that was pretty cool in that Sean picked his words, wanted to know the temperature, how to address the team. He said that, he wanted the team to kind of come together and, again, be that unifying image for not only Buffalo, but for the surrounding area. I thought it was I thought Sean was pretty well spoken. I thought he chose his words well.
Yeah, he speaks. I do believe he's speaking from the heart here. I mean, he talks about his love of his players all the time, and I think that comes out. By the way, you mentioned Brian Daboll, Jenna. I love that part when Daboll's name came up about the Zoom calls.
Yeah, so Coach McDermott was asked because Brian Daboll apparently loves to FaceTime his players.
Doesn't call anybody.
Even before everyone's now is sick of Zoom. Even before that, I remember John Feliciano telling Dan Fates earlier in the year that
was the best.
He would quote Brian Daboll's fat face come up on his phone. John Feliciano's words, not mine. But I will say, and it was funny that Sean McDermott said that Brian Daboll might have been ahead of the curve. But I think it kind of speaks to the fact that, look, Daboll wants to connect with his guys and talk to them face to face. And I think that just goes to show the relationship that he has with his players. And, I think that is another thing that says something about the team. It is funny though that it's like Brian Daboll just FaceTiming all his players. I
do believe it's fat face to face, by the way. Sorry, Daboll. Sorry, Brian. But I mean, come on, your own player said that. It is true. I do think the other part is, his team now, Dan, has gotten, everybody loves the Bills, right? Yeah. Everybody loves the Bills. He loved that underdog part. I really do think it is. He can't sell them on being underdogs. He may not be able to say, we're the best, but he cannot sell this team on being the underdogs.
And we talked about it a bunch, even on here on Buffalo Plus, and we talked about this is the best roster in the AFC East. And now all of a sudden, they say the hungry dog runs fastest. So like, how do you do this? And he simply said, quote, games aren't won on paper. And I thought that was a really short, simple answer that he's drilling into these guys on Zoom meetings. I am sure that he's hearing that all the time. It's find a way and games aren't won on paper. And then he went on to absolutely dunk on former coach Rex Ryan by saying that wins don't come in the offseason. Just an awesome shot. I don't know if it was like intentional, but like to take the exact words where Rex famously said we won the offseason.
Yeah, see,
Sean to now say.
Right. But that's different. See, you said wins don't come in the offseason. Rex went full on. We won the offseason. Yes.
That quote.
And he ate a dog biscuit and jumped out of an airplane.
And rode a tandem bike with his
bicycle.
Brother.
Yeah,
we've got his lap band removed.
That's true. Well, got it and then got it removed. We've talked multiple times about how these two men who held the same position back-to-back times with the Bills could not be more different. And I think about this all the time because I think McDermott is a very disciplined guy. I think he's a tough coach. I think he's a demanding coach. But I think he's more connected to his players than Rex ever was. Rex was loose and fun and that guy, but I think Sean McDermott absolutely knows his players better than Rex knew his players. I don't think there's any doubt.
And I think he's more respected. I think that's the big thing. I think it's the amount of respect. The players know that Sean McDermott cares and Sean McDermott has their respect. I don't think anybody respected Rex Ryan when his time in Buffalo. And we kind of heard whispers about that when he left.
I mean, I think the bottom line, like you said, Dan, is like Sean McDermott just cares so much. That's the impression that I think we've all gotten over these last 3 years now entering his fourth season is just every detail. And obviously personnel is a huge portion of the team. And I just think he really does care. And even before, I feel like he was preaching that his team was a family, years. This has been years in the making of the process. So I just feel like it is funny though, because, the Bills overcorrected so much. They went from a guy like Rex Ryan to someone like Sean McDermott. But I think that discipline has been huge for the franchise. And I think you can see it in the results in just these past 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that what he's done for this franchise is allowed them to become a place that I think players want to be around. Yeah. Everybody thinks about, the people on the outside think about the weather in Buffalo or small market and all. Yeah. At a certain point, man, they just talk to other guys in the league. That's what this place has become. And I do think he's got that with this group. And I think it showed today. And I will say this to end. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Right. I think I go back to the Quentin Jefferson press conference, Zoom conference that he had when he came in, and he was asked about how it's changed in Buffalo. And he was asked that question straight up, Buffalo 5 years ago to Buffalo now. And he said that it was to John War of the Associated Press's question. And he had to stop himself in the middle of the question. He's like, if you would have told me about Buffalo 5 years ago, and laughed, an NFL football player laughing about the proposition of playing in Buffalo 5 years ago, to now he says, hell yeah, everybody wants to play in Buffalo. Like, you talked about that, Mike. I think that was a perfect example of hearing Quentin Jefferson, a guy that probably could have stayed in Seattle, but wanted to come to Buffalo for the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I,
no, go ahead.
One takeaway also from today that we haven't touched on that I thought was interesting was the fact that obviously been a weird offseason, but the fact that Sean McDermott thinks the rookies, he's kind of lowering the expectations for what they will be able to do. Obviously, it's a tough transition anyways, coming from college, going into the NFL. And we've seen players struggle with that before. But now with the added parts of, having Zoom calls and not being in person, it was just interesting to see and hear him talk about that and the obstacles that these rookies in particular are going to have to overcome, knowing that there's been, just so much that's been so different about the offseason.
Well, the plus for the Bills is with the roster they have, the rookies, maybe Epinesa thought of more higher draft pick and getting him in there right away, but the others are going to be filling in spots because they have a talented roster. One last thing, I want to know what each of you guys think. My personal opinion, I think Sean likes the Zoom calls. I think he's more relaxed in a Zoom call than a regular news conference.
No, actually, I disagree because this is off-season Sean McDermott.
Okay.
In season, Sean McDermott is all business.
All business. Okay, so you think if it's in-season Zoom, he's back to Sean?
Yes.
He's not Mac Daddy.
He's not Mac Daddy.
Dan?
I think he liked him in the beginning. I think he even said, he's like, ooh, Zoom's exciting. Like, look at how cool all this is today. And now he's like, I'm sick of it. And I get it. I think he just wants to be in there. I think he likes his presence. I think he's actually carries a little bit of presence in One Bills, in Orchard Park. Yeah. And I think when he gets back in, in those big meeting halls, I think that's where he thrives. So I think it's tough for him. But he is saying he's bouncing around to all the different Zoom meetings.
Oh, no. He says, right. I'm talking about his Zoom meetings with us.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, with us? Oh, yeah. He doesn't need.
Well, especially because everybody asks him how he is, how's the family, how's it going.
Hey, great to see you, Sean. Great. Thanks for the time, Sean.
I'm guilty, so I can't say anything.
Yes, you are. Fine. There we go. All right. Well, that's going to do it this time. For Dan Fates and Jenna Cottrell, I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for watching. And remember, do like everybody else in Western New York and around the country. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're getting the people in multitudes joining us. It's gone well.
In the tens.
In the tens. They just keep adding up.
People daily.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you the next time.